days. But when I made it, I mean, it's actually pretty nicely made. I go back and I open one every couple of years to taste it and see if it's any good, still. And it was good when I made it, and it didn't have to age long at all. It was actually. That one actually turned out pretty well, and this was before I knew about staggered nutrient additions, so I lucked out, basically.
Right.
But it was, it turned out well, and so far so good. But I mean, it's a piment, so it's aging like a wine,
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I guess I should say I never do. I did it was a lighter buckwheat, and for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to make a trad with it, and I still don't know why I thought that was a good reason, but I made it, and it was, like a young buckwheat was. It wasn't very, it was clean. It was well made, but it was nothing I wanted to drink. So I stuck it away and kind of forgot about it for about 3 years. Pulled it out. It must have been a little bit of carbonation going because it was now sparkling when I opened it, but it was like really nice, finish at the end of it, and that ended up I think I took first or second at Mazer Cup on that one, and it turned out really nice, but unfortunately by that point there was only a few bottles left.
Yeah.
But you think I'd have learned to keep some back at that point, but I haven't.
Yeah, my one attempt at buckwheat.
But I make my Mead to drink.
Yeah, I tried to make a buckwheat, and no matter how long I aged it, it was still terrible, so and it ultimately ended up getting dumped.
Yeah.
But
I've never actually made just a buckwheat traditional, but I throw a kilogram of buckwheat honey in most of my traditionals just to give it a little bit more oomph,
I like
a little
it
more complexity.
Yeah, I like it as an adjunct honey. I just wasn't successful in that one attempt as as using it as a main. So
I kind of want to try making a short mead with it.
That might be interesting. What's the most problematic one you've ever made, Scott?
Oh, problematic.
Yeah.
One of the first commercial meads I had that I really liked was Redstone had a vanilla cinnamon.
Yeah, that's good.
And
I like that.
I don't know that it was actually problematic, but it's the one I had to work the hardest to get the right balance, without getting too much vanilla or like the cinnamon, so it was like a red hot candy. And I mean, that one I had to work at pretty hard to get at. Problematic, most of the ones that get problematic anymore. Fortunately, I worked under a distilled spirits permit, so I have something to do with those. But I work at a distillery, so I can handle the ones I'm not real happy with. But I mean, and I would actually say that after the staggered nutrient additions, there really hasn't. There's been meads I like better than others, but there hasn't been any that I've really just dumped at this point. I mean, there's some that I don't give to other people. I just drink myself. But I mean, most problematic was probably that raspberry one on the ceiling. That was kind of hard to top that
for
one.
the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, for me, having to clean the ceiling. But.
Yeah. I still got, I had one eat through the seal and decorate the floor. So,
yeah. I mean, fortunately, these days, it's just, they didn't come out like I wanted. I guess that's problematic in a way, but, I mean, I think if you're conscious about your process and about your sanitation, I mean, your odds are pretty good in your favor. You're going to end up with a drinkable product. It might not be just what you wanted, but I think, it'll be palatable.
Have you played with doing sessions, or mainly you're just working with full strengths?
I don't. Mine usually come on around the 14% range. You talk to these people that, well, I'm a wine person, I'm a beer person, I'm this and that. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but I like all of it. And so I kind of have different things. If I want, but if I want something lighter, I'll have a beer, or I like cider. I like cider. I make cider as well.
Yeah, I really.
I put my meads are kind of like in the wine category. I'm looking for something along that range. So I really haven't done much with the session meads. I really, it's kind of like I've made very few sweet meads because I don't like the cloying. I've had some really beautiful dry meads. I make mead because I like honey. I like the honey flavor, and I think you lose that in a fair number of the dry mead. So I'm kind of like you. I kind of like stick in the semi-sweet range, and it's it comes back to I make what I like or what I want to drink. Like I said, I've had some really good dry meads, but I think a lot of people that if it attenuates too far, they just call it a dry mead when it's just an over-attenuated mead. That's my opinion from a judging standpoint.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, they'll go to make something that just comes out way too dry. Well, I'll just enter it as a dry mead. It doesn't really work that way.
Still got to be balanced.
Yeah. I said, and the good dry meads are really good. They're really nice.
I know early in my winemaking career...
I like the honey flavors.
Early in my winemaking career, I would just sort of set it up and let it go, and wherever it finished, that's where it was, and that's how I discovered I really don't care for dry meads all that much, or dry wines all that much. And then, went to tried the, how strong can we get it, and, all the pitfalls that, mead makers and winemakers all make, how sweet can we make it, how strong can we make it, and yeah, you try a lot, taste a lot, try different things, see what you like, and you may eventually find you settle on something that you do like.
Right.
And then figure out how to make it really, really well so you want it all the time.
Right. That's like with brewers, too. They try how many IBUs can you put in it? How bitter can you make your IPA?
Oh, God.
Instead of just making a nice soft beer that everyone wants to drink.
I had that conversation with Mike Fall earlier today as we were test driving his braggots. And he's got three different IPA braggots, IPA-style braggots. But, they were good, but, I absolutely will not drink an American IPA, period. End of story, won't touch it. Because this whole how many hops can we cram into a glass thing? Sorry, I'm not going to support that trend. I'm just not.
Right.
So yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah. And I see a little bit of that happening at times in the mead world too. Taking melomels to the extreme. How much fruit can you cram into a melomel?
And still be able to taste the honey?
Well, yeah, I'd still be able to call it a mead.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point,
that's kind of where that's kind of where that blackcurrant blackberry one I make falls into. I mean, it's right there. I mean, I think it's absolutely delicious, but there's a lot of people would call that a fruit wine. I mean,
yeah, I think my cleaning at the freezer is the same.
There's 18 pounds of honey, but if you put enough black currants in there, it'll cover up honey pretty quick.
Yeah.
When you have enough black currants that it finishes at 1040, and you still need to back sweeten it because it's too dry.
Oh my!
Maybe put a little bit too many black currants in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen currant meads that go over the top. That are like, okay, you could have reined those in a little bit.
Well, even red currants are pretty darn acidic. That is the one fruit that I always have to be really careful with pH for, especially if I'm using like RC212 or something like that, because it gets really cranky if it gets too acidic.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, I've seen some of the ones that are going with the berry meads, and where they're so humongously berry that they're not just over the top; they're around the corner and on the next block. I mean, they're like so huge, so big, and you start to wonder, like, okay, there has to be a line that's being crossed here somewhere, and just exactly what is that line, and is it, do you want to stay on this side of it or what? So, and part of that is that we are the wild, wild west of craft alcoholic beverages. There really are no rules. I mean, cider's only got so many there's only so many things you can do with a cider, and wine has lots of rules, and beer has some rules, but we have
wine
rules.
has lots of rules if you're using grapes. It gets a little more interesting if you're not.
If it's a country wine, then yeah.
So you're making wine? Well, what kind of grapes are you using? I'm not using grapes. What do you mean? Oh, for crying out loud. Let me explain this to you. Yeah. I don't use grapes in my wines, except wild grapes sometimes.
Yeah.
And, the odd wine kit.
Well, yeah.
Because those are just fun, especially when you mess...
And you got some flexibility there. I'd like to go back and do another Pymet, but do it. My reason for going sweet on the Chamerlot was because they're both dry wine grapes, and so I thought, fine, I'm not going there. We're going to try this as a sweet and see what happens. So basically, it was an experiment that worked. I had no idea if it was going to work or not, but I'd love to go back and try something like that. I've got a couple of ideas that have been bumping around in my head to go back and do like somewhere between off dry and semi-sweet, probably like just on the dry side of semi-sweet, and do a Pymet with what are traditionally dry wine grapes, and see what I can do with that, because I'd really like to try. I love the richness of them. I love the rich notes that are in a good Merlot, in a good Chambers. I love Chamberson grapes. I mean, I absolutely adore them, and I like Chamberson wine. But the problem is that they always take it so damn dry that it's like really nicely flavored sauce to me, and it's like, okay, it's like, oh, caramel and coffee and vanilla, and oh my god, it's the desert in my mouth here. Oh my god, give me a glass of water, and. I really think that they would benefit from a little residual sugar,
But again, I mean, how much residual sugar you need really depends on what it is you're making. So you can't just say, I like my meads to finish at 1.1015, Because, if I did that with red currant mead, it would be far too sweet, because even when it's bone dry, there's still a perception of sweetness to red currants. And, if I did that with the chocolate mead, it's like, that's going to be still too bitter because of the chocolate drying everything out.
I've had people, contact me after I've judged their meads where, I'll say, this is, more semi-sweet than dry. I think you would have been much better in the semi-sweet category. And but it finished at, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, people think that's a rule. Okay, if it finishes in here, that's what determines if it's sweet, semi-sweet, or dry. And it's hard to get people away from that. The final gravity, other than if your fermentation's done, is an irrelevant number to me. It's how it tastes.
Yeah.
I said that one black currant one I did finish just shy of 1040, and I back sweetened it because it was so, tannic and acidic you could hardly drink it. But added some more sugar back, some more honey back to it, and I thought it was pretty damn good. But, it's all about how it tastes. It's irrelevant what that number is. And with the wines, like you were saying, the dry versus sweetness, I go to wine tastings just strictly looking for grapes for Pymets. And I really like the spicier. For reds, I like Pinot Gris or Pinot Noir. I think that works really well in a Pymet. That I've had some good luck with that. But the Gewurz and Orange Blossom is like a golden combination to me. I just love that.
I want to try that. Yeah,
me too.
I love Gewurz wine.
Me too.
And that with Orange Blossom. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Gonna have to definitely go hunting at my brew shop when I get home and see if they've got Gewurz juice. They don't grow those around where I live. So.
No, I do just like you do. I buy the kits and throw everything away except the bag of juice.
Yep, just keep the juice.